Okay, I read 7 books in February. That is a lot. And you know what? Because I respect your time and because I love you, here you go. These are all the books I read in February in order from favorite to least favorite with a sad little DNF at the end. But if that's all you came for, that's cool. Thank you so much for watching. But if you have time, let's kick it. Let's talk about these books. And I also want to tell you about my book club where at the end of the month, we can hang out and just have fun and talk about books. Before we start, let's take a look at my story graph for the month of February. Okay, we have 7 books, 2001 pages, and our moods are looking reflective, emotional, and dark. I need more happy stories in my life. And let's just go down to the genres and let's take a look what we got. And we got classics, literary fiction, speculative fiction. Not a big surprise there. I'm a little sad to see historical fiction all the way at the bottom. I need to get that number up. But right, that's my story graph. Let's start with The Dispossessed, Animal Farm, and The Spy Who Came in from the Cold, since these are books that I haven't talked in my recent videos. The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin tells the story of Shevik, a physicist torn between his idealistic anarchist society of Anaris and the capitalist world of Urus. All right, so you know what's funny? I've actually been wanting a sci-fi book. I think you guys might know this, but I wanted a sci-fi book with action. Like I'm talking spaceships, lasers, AI robots fighting one another. And I gotta say, this book is not that whatsoever, but something interesting did happen. As I kept reading this book, the excitement for me didn't come from the action, obviously. Instead, it came from the way that I started learning about these 2 different worlds, these 2 different forms of government, and these 2 different ways that a society can live in. And honestly, I became almost mesmerized with the ideas that I was getting from the author Ursula. And let me give you some context. I'm a literary fiction fan, so for me, connecting to characters is the #1 thing. And when it comes to Shevik, if I'm being honest, I didn't connect with him whatsoever. I was never a fan of Shevik. Actually, I'm still not a fan of Shevik. And there's something that he does a little bit past the 50% mark where I almost hated this character. But the more I started reading the book, the more I started understanding him, and the more I started seeing him understand himself, the more I thought to myself, wait a minute, this might be what Ursula wanted me to feel. I don't know if she wanted me to truly like Shevik. There's something going on here. For me, it is a good book because I love the experience that I had reading this book. The way that Ursula communicated her ideas to me was very mesmerizing. And I love my experience of letting the action that I wanted kind of disappear and go away, and instead embracing these thoughts and these questions that came to my mind as I read the book. Oh, and one more thing. This goes back to me just loving characters. I wanted more of Shevik's wife. I think and I don't know if this exists actually. I don't know if there's a book or a novella with Shevik's wife's perspective, but if I would have gotten 1 or 2 more chapters of Shevik's wife, I think that would have taken this book to a different level for me. Let's do a little question of the day or question of the video. But what was your favorite book that you read in February? You guys give the best recommendations. My TBR is looking crazy, but I love it. So let me know. The Spy Who Came in from the Cold by John Le Carré is a Cold War thriller about Alec Leamas, a British spy who is tasked with a risky mission to frame an Eastern German intelligence official. As a fan of history, I automatically love this book because it takes place during the Cold War, which to me is one of the most interesting and captivating times in our history. The writing is great. The dialogue felt so honest and so real, which now makes sense because I just recently found out that John Le Carré actually lived that life. John Le Carré is a real one. I love the ending. I love the tension. I love the need that I had to know what was going to happen to Leamas, the main character. He was playing chess throughout the entire book and throughout the entire mission, and I found it very engaging. Look, it's not the best book in the world or anything like that, but it is strong and very captivating. And I think if you love history and you wanted to get into John Le Carré books, this is a great book to start with. Animal Farm by George Orwell is about farm animals who overthrow their human owner only to see their new society become just as oppressive. I gotta be honest, at first I thought the use of animals was a little bit funny, but it ended up being a really clever way of critiquing political systems. This book illustrates how revolutionary ideals can be corrupted by power and eventually lead to inequality. It's powerful, but at the same time simple, and the use of animals to represent human behavior in these political ideas is very accessible and very easy to understand. And speaking of accessible, this book used to be a required reading in school, but I believe now it's a banned book. I'm not sure why, but it's timeless. And it's a book that I really think everyone should read just to get these concepts kind of digested in a very simple form. All right, really quickly, let's talk about Kindred, Bel Canto, Pride and Prejudice, and the Traveling Cat Chronicles. I already talked about these books in my recent videos, so if you want a little bit more info on those books, just check those videos out. Kindred by Octavia Butler is a time travel story about a Black woman named Dana in the 1970s who all of a sudden disappears and wakes up in 1815. This was my first time reading an Octavia Butler book, and this is the perfect example of the power of storytelling. It's a book about racism and abuse, and it's told in a time travel tale with lessons of how our past affects our future. And it's a book that is hard to read at times, at least for me it was. But it's a book that's so powerful that it helps you build empathy. And I think that's the true power of books and stories, a way for us to connect to other people. This was my first Butler book, and honestly, I can't wait to read more of her work. Bel Canto by Ann Patchett is about a group of people taken hostage during a party in South America, and as they're waiting for this standoff to come to an end, we see everyone involved form an unusual connection. And that's exactly what this book is. It's a book about human connection and finding the good in people and connecting to other humans through language, music, and art. I think you might already know this, but I actually didn't love the ending, but that's still okay. I still like the book. Ann Patchett is great. I'm a big fan of her writing. I love most of her books. So if you're a fan of literary fiction and music, I think you have to check this one out. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen follows Elizabeth as she navigates her first impressions of love and society expectations. Honestly, what can I say? It's one of my favorite books of all time. This is my third time reading this book, and it's still amazing. I love the lessons of the importance of communication and to learn about others before judging them, and that love sometimes takes time. And it's also a story about growth and family and lots of walking and gossips and party. All that to say, I love this book. The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa is a heartwarming story about the friendship of a cat named Nana and his human companion Satoru. Well, what can I say? Well, I guess first of all, I cried like a little baby when I was reading this book, but it's one of the most beautiful stories about friendship and finding the right people in your life at the right time. It's an example on how to love, on how to be a good human, and a reminder that life is going to life. And when it does, lean on friendship, nature, and love. And maybe it's also a reminder to appreciate the little moments in life because sometimes they might be more beautiful than what we think. If you see me in the streets, I will gift you this book. Okay, let's talk about what I'm currently reading, which is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. It's the first book of my new book club on my Substack newsletter called Slow Turn. And in case you're wondering, Slow Turn is all about reading at your own pace. But let me tell you about the book. Tova, grieving the loss of her husband and the mysterious disappearance of her son 30 years ago, takes a night job at the Sowell Bay Aquarium to keep herself busy. There, she bonds with Marcellus, a clever and stubborn octopus. Marcellus knows more than anyone, but he's not fond of helping humans until Tova comes along. So cute. It's another book about grief and friendship and connection, and it's a book that I've been wanting to read for such a long time now. So if you want to jump on a live video with me at the end of the month and talk about the book, then head over to my Substack. I have all the information on how things are going to work, the books, the schedule, and all that stuff. I am so excited to get this going. I'm so excited to connect with you guys a little bit more, and let's just have fun. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you so much for hearing me talk about books yet again. I hope you're having a beautiful week, a beautiful weekend, and you're having a chance to read some good books too. if you want to hear me talk some more about this book that I love so much, check out this video that's going to pop up right here. You are beautiful. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on my Substack and hanging out and talking about books and having fun. That's like the most important thing to me. And that is all. Okay. I'll see you next week. Love you. Bye.